From the factories of Detroit to the front lines of the world. Nearly 90,000 vehicles built to liberate a continent. This is the complete technical catalog of American armor. Let's start with the light tanks. M1 combat car, the cavalry's tank. Legally, the pre-war cavalry could not own tanks, so they built combat cars, armed only with machine guns and capable of 45 miles per hour on tracks. These twin-turreted vehicles trained the first generation of U.S. tankers. M2 light tank, the ancestor. It established the design DNA for all subsequent U.S. light tanks, introducing the vertical volute spring suspension. The final A4 variant was the first to mount a 37mm cannon, seeing brief combat in Guadalcanal. M3 Stuart, the Honey, the first American tank to see mass combat. Distinguished by its riveted hull construction and high silhouette. Powered by a radial aircraft engine, it was fast but noisy. Its 37mm gun was weak against armor, but lethal against infantry in the Pacific. M3A1 Stuart, the upgraded Honey. It replaced the riveted turret with a welded, rounded design and removed the tall commander's cupola to lower the profile. It introduced a gyrostabilizer for the gun, allowing accurate fire while moving. M3A3 Stuart, the slanted hull. A complete redesign of the M3 hull with sloped armor to improve protection. It increased fuel capacity and storage, though it was heavier and slower than the original. M5 Stuart, the V8 Scout. As aircraft production surged, radial engines became scarce. The M5 solved this by using twin Cadillac V8 engines and an automatic transmission. It featured a completely redesigned hull with sloped armor and a larger turret, serving as the standard light tank in Europe. M22 Locust, the airborne tank. Designed with one constraint: it had to fit inside a glider. Weighing only 7 tons, it was extremely small. While an engineering marvel, it lacked the armor to survive on the front line and was used sparingly by airborne forces crossing the Rhine. M24 Chaffee, the ultimate light tank. Arriving in late 1944, it revolutionized light tank design. It abandoned the tall suspension for torsion bars and mounted a massive 75mm gun, the same firepower as a Sherman, on a fast, low-profile chassis. Next is the medium tanks. M2 medium tank, the obsolete Fortress, a pre-war design bristling with machine guns in fixed mounts at every corner of the hull. It had high vertical sides and was essentially an unarmored target, used strictly for training. M3 Lee, the stopgap. Lacking a turret ring large enough for a 75mm gun, engineers mounted the main gun in a sponson on the side of the hull, with a 37mm gun in a top turret. It was tall, awkward, and had limited firing arcs, but provided vital firepower in North Africa. M3 Grant, the British variant. Mechanically identical to the Lee but with a redesigned, lower-profile cast turret. It removed the machine gun cupola and moved the radio equipment into the turret bustle for better crew operation. M4 Sherman, standard. The original, welded hull with a sharp, angular front, powered by a Wright Continental radial aircraft engine. This was the base model that fought from North Africa to the end of the war, armed with the versatile 75mm M3 gun. M4A1 Sherman, the cast hull, the first variant to enter mass production. Instantly recognizable by its rounded, turtle shell upper hull cast from a single piece of steel. This curved shape deflected shots better than flat plates but was harder to manufacture. M4A2 Sherman, the diesel, powered by twin GM6 to 71 diesel engines. The Army preferred gasoline, so the M4A2 was sent to the Soviet Union via Lend-Lease and used by the U.S. Marines in the Pacific to share fuel logistics with Navy landing craft. M4A3 Sherman, the Ford the 5th 8, the definitive U.S. Army tank, powered by a purpose-built Ford GAA V8 engine producing 500 horsepower. It was reliable, powerful, and became the standard tank for U.S. forces in Europe from 1944 onwards. M4A4 Sherman, the stretched hull, built to utilize the Chrysler A57 multibank engine, 5-car engines bolted together. To fit this massive power plant, the hull was lengthened. Most were supplied to the British Army. M4A6 Sherman, the hybrid, a rare variant featuring a cast front hull welded to a rolled steel rear hull, powered by a multi-fuel Caterpillar radial engine. Only 75 were ever built. M4A3E2 Jumbo, the assault tank, a field-expedient heavy tank. It added massive layers of extra steel to the front hull and a heavily thickened turret, bringing frontal armor to 100 millimeters, designed to lead columns and draw fire from German 88s. M4A3E8 EZ8, the ultimate Sherman, featured the new horizontal volute spring suspension, HVSS, and wide tracks for a smooth ride. Armed with the high-velocity 76mm gun, it was the peak of medium tank technology in 1945. Sherman Firefly, the tank killer, a British modification of the M4A4, fitting their massive 17-pounder anti-tank gun into the turret. The radio was moved to an armored box on the back of the turret to balance the weight. Sherman 105, the infantry support, an M4 armed not with an anti-tank gun, but with a 105mm howitzer. Operating in assault gun platoons, they blasted bunkers and nests with massive high-explosive shells. M4 Zippo, the flamethrower, used extensively in the Pacific. The main gun was replaced or supplemented by a heavy flamethrower nozzle, capable of shooting napalm 100 yards into caves and fortifications. T-34 Calliope, the rocket launcher, an M4 fitted with a rack of 64.5-inch rocket tubes on the turret. It could unleash a devastating saturation barrage in seconds before the tank moved in to mop up. Sherman DD, the swimmer, a duplex drive modification with a canvas screen that raised to displace water, allowing the tank to float. Propellers drove it through the surf during the D-Day landings. Sherman Crab, the flail, an engineering vehicle equipped with a rotating drum of chains. It flailed the ground in front of the tank to detonate landmines and clear a path for infantry. M32 recovery vehicle, the tow truck, a Sherman with the turret replaced by a fixed casemate and a massive A-frame crane, essential for recovering damaged tanks under fire. Moving on to the heavy tanks, M6 heavy tank, the pre-war giant. Weighing 60 tons, it carried both a 3-inch gun and a 37mm gun in the same turret. It suffered from transmission issues and was deemed too heavy to ship efficiently. It never saw combat. M26 Pershing, the heavy medium, America's answer to the Panther. It featured thick armor, a low profile, and a powerful 90mm gun. While officially a heavy tank in World War II, it set the template for the modern main battle tank. T-26E4 Super Pershing, the King Tiger Killer, a prototype field-tested in Europe. It mounted a massive long-barreled 90mm T-15E1 gun. The crew welded boilerplate steel from a destroyed Panther onto its front for improvised extra armor. T-28 Super Heavy, the Doom Turtle, a 95-ton casemate tank designed to smash the Siegfried Line. It had no turret, mounting a 105mm gun directly in the frontal armor. It was so wide it required double tracks on each side. T-29 Heavy Tank, the post-war giant, a massive turreted tank designed to counter the Tiger II. It mounted a 105mm gun in a huge cast turret. Developed during the war, it arrived too late to fight. T-30 Heavy Tank, the Bunker Buster, identical to the T-29 but armed with a colossal 155mm gun. It used a separate loading system for the massive shells and charges. T-34 Heavy Tank, the Kinetic Penetrator, the T-29 chassis fitted with a 120mm anti-aircraft gun adapted for tank use. It was designed to punch through the thickest armor in existence. Next, the tank destroyers, M3 GMC, the Desperate Measure, a 75mm field gun mounted in the bed of an M3 half-track. Zero protection for the crew, but it provided mobile anti-tank fire in the early campaigns of North Africa and the Philippines. M6 Fargo, the Failure, a 37mm anti-tank gun mounted on a Dodge truck. Unarmored, high-profile, and armed with a gun too small to hurt modern tanks. Most were converted back to cargo trucks. M10 Wolverine, the workhorse, built on a Sherman chassis with lighter armor and an open-top turret, carried a 3-inch gun, vulnerable to artillery but fast and lethal, serving as the backbone of TD battalions. M18 Hellcat, the Speed Demon, the fastest tracked vehicle of the war, hitting 55 miles per hour. Purpose-built with paper-thin armor and a 76mm gun. It utilized shoot and scoot tactics to flank heavy German armor. M36 Jackson, the Slugger, an M10 hull fitted with a massive turret housing a 90mm gun. It was the only U.S. vehicle capable of destroying a Tiger or Panther from long range frontally. Now, the self-propelled artillery, M7 Priest, the mobile pulpit, a 105mm howitzer on an M3 Lee chassis, named for the ring-like machine gun mount that resembled a pulpit. It provided immediate fire support to armored columns. M8 Scott, the pocket howitzer, a 75mm pack howitzer in an open turret on an M5 Stuart chassis. Fast and light, it provided close-range indirect fire for recon units. M12 GMC, the door knocker, a 155mm long tom gun on an M3 chassis. Designed to blast through concrete bunkers, it famously fired point-blank into pillboxes at the Siegfried Line. M40 GMC, the successor, the 155mm gun mounted on the wider, more stable M4A3 Sherman chassis, saw action in the final battle for Cologne. M43 HMC, the Big Brother, similar to the M40 but mounting an enormous 8-inch, 203mm howitzer, the heaviest mobile firepower of the U.S. Army in World War II. Next up, armored cars and half-tracks. M8 Greyhound, the Scout, a fast, six-wheeled armored car with a 37mm gun. Quiet and quick, it ranged miles ahead of the force. Its thin armor made it vulnerable, but speed was its defense. M20 Utility Car, the Command Car, an M8 with the turret removed for an open compartment, used for command, cargo, and transport. T-17E1 Staghound, the Heavy Scout, a robust 4x4 armored car with a 37mm gun. Rejected by the U.S. Army but used extensively by British and Commonwealth forces in Italy. M2/M3 Half-Track, the Battle Taxi, a hybrid with wheels for steering and tracks for traction. It carried mechanized infantry squads through small arms fire. M16 MGMC, the Meat Chopper, an M3 half-track with a max and quad mount, 4.50 caliber machine guns. Designed for anti-aircraft use, it was devastating against infantry. M15 CGMC, the Combo, a half-track mounting a 37mm autocannon and 2.50 caliber machine guns for mixed air defense. Finally, the amphibious vehicles. LVT-1 Alligator, the Swamp Crawler, an unarmored tracked cargo carrier designed for rescue, adopted by Marines for the Pacific. LVT-A-1, the Swimming Tank, an LVT with armor plate and an M3 Stuart turret, provided fire support from the water. LVT-4 Water Buffalo, the Ramp Carrier, an improved LVT with a rear ramp, allowing jeeps and artillery to be driven out directly onto the beach. LVT-A-4, the Heavy Fire Support, an LVT hull fitted with the 75mm howitzer turret of an M8 Scott, used to blast Japanese bunkers before the infantry landed. DUKW, the Duck, a six-wheeled amphibious truck, the logistical hero, ferrying supplies from ships directly inland without stopping. M29 Weasel, the Snow Walker, a small tracked carrier designed for snow and deep mud, essential for supplying troops in difficult terrain where wheels failed. From the rivet-hulled Scouts of 1941 to the ballistic-engineered heavy tanks of 1945. They were reliable, reparable, and produced in numbers the world had never seen. This is the technical catalog of the arsenal of democracy.